What is the Matrix?
Hi, welcome back to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program, Target Individual Experience. I just want to do this video just to give TIs something that they can show their family, friends, if they have any friends, your therapist, if you are seeing a therapist, because I think a lot of TIs are very confused. And again, it is not their fault in terms of trying to explain their targeting and how they are being and had been manipulated, right? And how people engage in their targeting, meaning they are engaging in psychological operations as well as covert physical operation. And covert physical operation meaning excuse me, meaning that they're being drugged without their knowledge. They're being manipulated without their knowledge, right? So when I talk about manipulation, meaning using your surrounding, the people in your surrounding, the people that you meet, the people that you have met, in order to discredit, in order to silence, because they make you think or believe what they want you to think and believe. So it's important that that I do this video, because after watching, I subscribed to Tamara Hill, right? She's a therapist, very good. I watch her, and I watch another therapist, Doc Snipe, right? And so she had did a video about a year ago on gang stalking. And she did another video live. I think it was yesterday or the day before. But there are a couple of things that I was listening to her, and she said that kind of like I felt like some things that she was saying tend to want to shift everything to the your mental illness, you're paranoid, you're this and that, and such. Okay, now let me start off by saying this. Just because a person is paranoid doesn't mean that what is happening to them and what they say is happening to them isn't real. Okay? If somebody is pointing a gun at you, you will become paranoid. Doesn't mean that the person didn't point a gun at you, right? You experience a sudden onset of the fight or flight syndrome. And in this case, most people will experience the flight phenomena, right? They want to run away, or some people will just stay frozen, right? They don't know what to do. It's like that. It's the shock, right? Or that instant trauma paralyzes them. Okay. So there's a lot of things that I think a lot of psychiatrists and therapists either are willfully ignorant about, or they're just ignorant about it. They just don't know. Okay. And so listening to her live call, there are a couple of things that she said in there that kind of led me to question certain things, right? Particularly when it comes to how I look at her as a therapist. And again, I'm not trying to say she's a bad therapist, but she had said something like, she's like, there are some people who say that they're being gang stalked and they're paranoid and some are not. No, she said that they are sick and some are not. Okay, so how do you determine who is sick and who's not? And those who you determine are not sick, do you turn and you say to them, you know what, I believe you? Okay, I believe you. I believe what you're saying. Are you giving them a letter so that they can take to the police to say, look, this patient who I've been seeing for such and such was describing some things to me, and I believe that individual, so that the police can start an investigation? Because as a TI, I'll tell you, they're not going to do it. I've went to the police station. The first thing they're going to tell you when you start describing what it is that you're experiencing is to go see a therapist. So it's like a back and forth, right? So if you tell somebody that, you know, I believe you, and that person goes to the authority is going to send them right back to you or somebody else. And so what that does is now leave that person in a state of limbo, meaning that they can go to the police, because if they go to another police station, they're going to tell them the same thing, because law enforcement are a part of what is happening to TI. Right? There can be no federal mind control program or no federal program that involve in manipulating people's behavior, okay, without the use of the police. Now, that doesn't mean that every police officer know, right? They select a certain member or certain members of the police department, right? So they may have a secret, you know, a police department. You know, we've heard about Boss, right, here in New York, who are a secret secret police within the NYPD, whom I've called the New York Predator Department, that other police officers didn't even know about. Right? We see in Chicago, they've had, you know, secret torture site. Not every police officer knew about it. There's only specific number of police officers who they bring on to engage and become a part of their crimes against the public, right? And then you had also in Louisiana, right? You also had a secret police department with secret, you know, black sites, right? And black sites, we know, is a CIA coin word for a CIA facility in which they kidnap people, right? What they call rendition, and to torture them, to extract information, right? Some of these people, you never hear from them again. Okay, and or what they'll do is that they'll drug that person and ruin that person's mind, their psychology, their psyche, so that they will be discredited. Okay, so it always puzzles me, like, knowing the history, why do psychiatrists and therapists tend to not believe, you know, people like me and others who call ourselves targeted individuals? All right. And so I wanted to do this, you know, just to give you guys some information, as well as that you can take to your therapist, you can take to your family, you can take to whoever, to say, look, these things do happen. Okay. So I'm going to play a little bit of her video. Again, this is just to, for those of you who don't know who she is, all right, you know, this will give you an idea, you know, but we're good. Well, the video I'm going to play right now, the part of the video is that she's talking about, this is somebody who made a comment, right? And she's going to address this person. Okay. Give me a sec.
I felt that they didn't believe me, feel disrespected and violated all over again. Yes. So before I jump back into the content, let me just kind of go over this, Jessica J. So let's turn this a little bit. So let's say, for example, you are the police, right? Or you're a therapist, you're me, and you come to that individual, and that individual is crying, upset, confused, angry, just out of their head, thinking they have pages and pages of proof, thinking that they have emails and emails and text messages and social media chats of proof. And in Jessica J, I come to you, for example, you're law enforcement, I come to you with all of that. Where do I begin to track? Where do I start? Do I email the person? Do I call the person? Do I go to that person's home? What if there's not an address, right? If I contact that person and they deny it, then what's plan B? What's my next step from there? Because to a certain extent, despite quote unquote proof, it's he said, she said sometimes, or sometimes the other individual is not involved at all. or they say they're not. And the police or law enforcement have no way of proving that what you're saying is true or not true. All they
All right. Okay, so I want to address this, right? Because again, I don't expect her to totally understand, right? Because as she said in the video, there has not been a lot of research done. This is why I do what I do. This is why, over a decade ago, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to study this. Okay. I don't care what they want to label me, what they want to call me, but I'm going to study this and I'm going to expose it. Okay. So the thing is with therapists is that, that's who they are. They're just therapists, right? So you can't go to
know is what they see. Let me tell you, I'm going to share this with you briefly before I go back to the content on this topic. Let me just say, I work with police, and I either work with their children, I work with their spouses, or I work with them. And a lot of times, and I hope this isn't minimizing their role, because the good law enforcement police are wonderful.
And she's right. And she's right. I want to get to the part where let me see if all right, let me let me pause. I want to show this commercial.
Quality research study is done by interviewing. And sometimes interviewing people can be really difficult because we don't know if the person's telling the truth. We don't know if that person is really ill and in a psychosis. We don't even know if that individual is just sociopathic or psychopathic and is getting a kick out of leading people on a.
Okay. Well, let me just say this. As TIs don't look to get a kick out of this. Okay. We suffer not just psychologically, but physically as well, neurologically as well. Okay. And this is, like I said, this is why I do this. So, like I said, I've posted my MRIs on my back and my brain. Okay. To show the damage done. Right. To show the damage done. So how did I get these damage? How did I get the extent of my injuries without, one, because of my back being in a car accident, right? Because every time I went to go get MRI done or X-ray done on my back, I'm being told, they always ask me, when were you in a car accident? And I said, I was never in a car accident. And they all seem surprised. Wow, like, your injury like this is consistent with somebody who's been in a serious car accident. And I'm like, never been in one. Brain scan, right? The damage done to not just the gray matter in my brain, but the white matter, right? In terms of the diagnosis, it's like having been or it's like athletes, right? So having multiple concussion, but I've never played sports to have any concussion. Right. So when you look at the American diplomats, their results from their MRIs, right, you'll see the same thing. You see the exact same thing. Right. And I've been in this program for well over 2 decades. Okay. Well over 2 decades. Right. So again, TIs need to understand that, okay, when you're talking to these therapists about that, just say, hey, go and read the stories about the American diplomats who were hit with sonic weapons, right? Because those diplomats also talk about being followed, being, the headaches, the, not having balance, the coordination is off, right? And, it is continuous. Okay. It is continuous, right? So anyhow, this is how you gotta say things like this. You gotta bring in real world evidence. It may not be your evidence, but you can look around and see evidence from other people and use that. Okay.
Wild goose chase, right? We can't figure any of that out. We're just sitting and interviewing.
Yes, you can. You can figure it out, right? You can figure. And I'm gonna show you guys how you can figure it out because the research is out there. It's not like it's what's hidden is our government or our government agencies, military security agencies, the NSA, the CIA, the DoD, DARPA, as well as other private institutions who have who are funded by, let's say, the military, let's say the CIA, right, the Navy. Okay, so again, when you hear the U.S. government stand on as diplomats and saying no such technology exists or no such weapon exists, you know that they're lying. You know that they're lying because you know that in 1953 all up to 1978, right, the Russians were microwaving the U.S. embassy in Moscow. We know that the U.S. government or the CIA found out about it in 1968, right, when they were doing a sweep of the embassy. They picked up on a signal, right, and they knew that. And instead of alerting their diplomats, their workers, you know, their patriots, right, who they say is their patriots, who work for American interests, what do? Their own government threw them under the bus. They did not say anything, and they continue to let the Russians, right, microwave their citizens, their workers, right, in order to study the effect of microwave and radio frequency, the biological effect of those on the human body. So they knew it, and they just threw their diplomats under the bus. Okay, and then some of these diplomats developed psychological issues, cancer, sterilization, tumors, all these things documented, right? And because they dumbed the American public down, right? They hide information, you know. And again, they are using this technology on the public. Okay, they are. That thing we have in our hands that we use to record everybody with cell phones, that's one of the tools that they use. Okay, you look at the behavior of children who are given cell phone early, right? They have serious behavioral issues, right? But the government will come out and say, hey, you know what? Children under a certain age should not be having cell phone. Let's make it a law against that. No, because they put money in front of our health, our mental health, our physical health, our biological health. This is what they do. And you have to expect that from a capitalist country. And particularly when you have those in who are wealthy, position of power, and they want to control us as human beings. They want total control. And if they can develop technology in order to do that, that's exactly what they do. And if you as a therapist don't think so, then you shouldn't be a therapist. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even, if I was going to you about this and you're telling me that these things don't exist, I would walk out on you. I would leave. I would be like, no, I need to get a new therapist, a better therapist. Right? So I want to address some of the things that she said, right? About the stalking thing, right? About what she doesn't understand is that, technology has been developed to manipulate our minds, right? To try to control us. Those of us TIs who are microchipped, what they do in order to discredit us is use psychiatry. Psychiatry is a field that they have always used to discredit people who they've experimented on, people who they see as a threat and want to get rid of, want to do things to, and then get away with it using psychiatry. This is why the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual that psychiatrists use to treat you as a patient, the people that write these recommendations or what have you, they're in the pockets of the CIA and of big pharma, right? I give you guys an example. Black people used to get arrested. They've destroyed whole black communities, black families, and throw black men and women in jail for using crack cocaine, right? What's called crack, right? While they didn't do that to white people who were using cocaine, because back in the 80s, white people used cocaine a hell of a lot more than black people use crack. But black people are the one that end up being incarcerated for it. Okay, then you see methamphetamines, in which majority white people use. What happens? They don't throw them in jail, right? What they do, they went and develop a drug so that if they overdose, right, they can save their life. They didn't do that when black men and black women were overdosing on crack cocaine. Then they create all this treatment facility, so that if they get arrested for methamphetamines, they get treatment. They give them an option. They didn't give that to black men and black women. All right. So whenever I see black therapists like this and they just don't have an understanding of the overall picture, I know that there are many different TIs out there, but as a black TI, you should be more thoughtful and listen more, right? That as opposed to a white psychiatrist, because most of the white psychiatrists are in the pockets of big pharma. Okay, 78% of American psychiatrists are in the pocket of big pharma, and black psychiatrists or black therapists only make up about 5 to 7% of all psychiatrists in America. Okay, so I would expect that black psychiatrists could be more diligent and listen, and also start looking into some of the research themselves, or hire someone and say, hey, I need you to look into this, right? And when you're done, give me a summary, give me the information, and I'll read over it and such and such. Okay. So I want to read something. This is from the website Idle Del Hell, right? Which is organized stalking. It talks about David Lawson. So one of the first person who I, when I was talking about this stuff, they was telling me about this book. This book was called Cause Stalking, and it's about this gentleman, private investigator, who infiltrated these stalking groups, right? They're cults, right? These cults. Okay. And in his book, right, he talks about, it says, Cause Stalking, which is the perfect match for organized stalking, discussed in his pamphlet. Lawson worked more than a decade with a Florida detective agency. He traveled throughout the U.S. and Canada. He said his investigation covered 12 years. David Lawson reported in his book that he was casually listening to his public service radio scanner and discovered a group using police-like terminology, but which did not sound as if they were actual police officers. Eventually, he learned of a restaurant where they met for meals and visit one of this group's gathering there. This provided curiosity David Lawson with a chance to gain the confidence of the group, and Lawson found that they were in fact carrying out organized stalking on designated targets. This group assumed the role of some sort of special community police. Okay? I'm going to discuss where David Lawson is David Lawson's essential findings. Lawson discussed cause, organized stalking with a few police officers. Some had an odd excuse for allowing organized stalking to continue. The police claimed that somehow harassment by groups amount to free speech, Lawson learned. Police themselves are sometimes targets, which I believe. We see that whenever police officers become whistleblower, they become targeted, right? They are given a mental diagnosis to discredit them. They're sometimes thrown into psychiatric facilities. Okay? Go and read the story about the New York City police officer who blew the whistle on a lot of the crimes that was being committed by the NY Predator Department, and they locked him up in a mental institution. Okay? One officer acknowledged that stalking groups are growing in size and number. In general, they said that cause stalking is primarily a citizen's problem where the plaintiff have to prove financial loss. And I think we as TIs have proven financial loss, okay? Whether it be due to injury, whether it be psychological and physical, or both, okay? Obviously, police are not interested in pursuing organized stalkers, but since the early 1990s, stalking has been a criminal offense. But you see, what they do is what I call sophisticated levels of stalking, meaning that somebody's not following you around. what they do is that they listen to your communication. And if you're a microchip, they listen to your thoughts, your mind, right? And where you want to go. And I used to do this earlier in my targeted, right? Because I realized that whenever I say I was going somewhere, people always show up. So what I did, I just wake up one morning, or let's say if I'm home or have you, and I want to go somewhere, I might want to go to a movie, want to go get something to eat. I wouldn't say anything. I would just get dressed and go. And as soon as I get to that establishment, there'll be two, usually white guys, right, in the beginning, giving me the thumbs up. Or the New York Fire Department, which I call now the New York Fecal Department, will park their fire trucks right in front of the establishment. You know what I'm saying? And I was just trying to figure things out. Okay? So, and again, you know, at that state, even earlier on, you're confused. You don't know what's going on. Okay? They're, particularly when it comes to silent sound, right? And which is, you know, I'm not quite going to get into this that as much, but when they are able to place thoughts in your mind using your own inner voice, it's difficult to distinguish, and you will act on certain things. Okay? And this is how they get away with it. And this is how they will try to discredit you, because when you talk about these things, they'll say, well, you know, you're crazy. Again, psychiatry, okay, is used to discredit us. All right. So Lawson found the recruit he met were blue collar workers. These recruits can bring powerful abilities to the group by way of having keys to lock spaces. Just as I show you guys something in the video, they'll walk around shaking their keys, or they'll have their key on their pants loop belt, or when they see me, they'll take out their key out of their bag. And as I say, take out, you hear the New York Predator Department, right? Because again, what they've done, right, experimenting on you, and then because this is a program, right, and you got to also remember that they're using technology in which they don't have to microchip you, right? Silent sound spectrum, they can target you, right, without being microchip. But eventually you will become microchip, because eventually they will either introduce you to someone who you're going to have a relationship with, or they might criminalize you, incarcerate you, and microchip you there. Right? You might go to the dentist, right, for surgery. They might knock you out with whatever drug, microchip you there. And people don't think that these things happen, right? And again, as a psychiatrist, you have to study the history of the United States and understand that these things can and do happen. Okay? Now, does it mean that it's happening to your patient? You may not know, but if you listen, right? If they are coming with you and say, hey, I've been doing research, this is what I think has happened to me, right? It shows you that they are taking the time. So they have some sort of cognitive thinking ability here, where they're like, I'm going to take the time. I want to study this. I'm going to do research, right? And based off of the research that I've done for my experience, okay, that matches what I found in this research, then, you know, you need to take it seriously. And coincidentally, my twin brother, who had a therapist that believed him. He brought her the information, and when he brought her all the information, she read it. And then one session that he had with her, she said to him, you know what? I believe you. I believe you. And he said the next time he went back to see her, she was gone. They literally removed her. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that when these therapists begin to believe us and maybe go ask some questions, that they themselves become targeted. And this is how they keep these things secretive. They will target anybody who knows the truth. Okay? And so let's, you know, and again, if people don't believe me, you know, go and read Margaret Sanger, Cults in Our Midst. They use these cults, these religious cults, and this is law enforcement and those within the CIA, the FBI, the military, right? They control these cults, right? Based off of they can tell them anything. Either you're a threat to public safety, threat to national security, which is some of the things that they try to use on me, right? But again, how do you know, in the U.S. government, these private agencies who are engaging in development of highly classified technology, particularly when it comes to controlling the human mind, and they want to experiment on people, have real world examples testing human beings with these technology. You don't think that they do that? Right? Because if you think that they don't do that, then something's wrong with you. Then you are really yourself being manipulated and mind control. All you gotta do is just go look at the history. Go look at the history. Okay. So it says city workers, security guards, taxi drivers, cable, telephone, and utility workers also contribute to the group's ability to keep the target in their sights constantly lost and found. Keep in mind that organized stalking includes two phases. One, organized stalking by people, and two, attacks using advanced through-the-wall technology. But not only that, right? We're talking about technology, microchip implant against your will, remote neural monitoring. Okay. Listening to the infiltration of your electronic device, the surveillance of your electronic device. Right. So I talk about Pegasus, right? Police officers have what they call the Stingray, and they've been had it since the mid 2000s. They can stay in their police car, parked up on the street, right? And they can tune in and listen to every and any phone conversation, cell phone conversation that you're having. And they are doing this secretively. You don't know about it. The public doesn't know about it. Right? The state officials, the senators, maybe some senators and Congress people know about it. Right? But they're not going to say anything because of their mindset and what it is that they want to accomplish. Right? So when Snowden came out with these leaks, when other Bill Bellamy and who else? There was another, the black guy from the FBI who blew the whistle on the FBI, sending in infiltrators within the Muslim community to manipulate young Muslim men and try to entrap them. Right? These are things that they do all the time. Right? So I think, particularly in America, therapists have been are also being manipulated, and they don't even know it. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. Poisoning in our waters, a lot of shit. Poisoning our food, making us addicted to certain foods. There's a lot of things that's going on. Right? So sometimes I think that we are devolved from actual reality. But again, I don't blame us because we are being manipulated. Okay? So the recruit Losseman had no knowledge of the electronic attack. Of course not, because everything is compartmentalized. Okay? So the use of the civilian population, particularly those within the church's religious members, and giving them a purpose or a cause, right? So it's called cause stalking. This person is evil. This person is the devil. This person is Muslim. They're not Christian. And again, they'll have, in the beginning to me was more compartmentalized, but now it's a little bit more integrated within multiple ethnic groups, right? But then there's always that handler that handle those groups. Okay. There are times when I'm videotaping and I'm able to get on camera the handlers, and before I know it, my video stops recording and the video is deleted. Okay. Anyhow, for I would estimate 95% of targets of organized stalking, electronic harassment is an integral part of the harassment regime. I suspect Lawson does know about electronic harassment, but may have been threatened or bought off. That's just his opinion. I'm not sure about that, but I usually know that, when people are looking into these things, that there are times when you don't hear from them anymore, right? After they've exposed it, because they themselves become targeted. They, their livelihood is being messed with, and a lot of people are not going to continue if they're going to destroy their livelihood, right? Which leads to homelessness, issues also with mental health, physical health, right? And the use of, again, these sort of stalking tactics to cause not just mental illness within the person and damage or hurt those persons psychologically, but also physically, right? So when you have somebody under constant stress, right, being in stress all the time, what does that do, right? You have to look at the medical research, right, of constantly being in stress, right? So we know that being in stress will exacerbate certain genetic illnesses that is inherited within your family. So let's say if you have arthritis, that stress will activate that maybe in your 30s or in your 40s, when, having you not been put under such stress, it will only appear when you're over 60 or 70, right? Congenital heart disease, again, is another thing that you will develop while being under total stress, right? Cognitive ability decline, right? Psychological issue develops, right? Cancer, right? All sorts of things. There are early premature aging, right? I mean, I've had gray hair since 40 years old, right? I look at my other brothers. My brother and I were targeted, and yeah, our hair is almost completely gray. I look at my other brothers, no such thing, and they're older. Look at my sisters, no such thing, and they're older. Okay, so you have to be able to look at your immediate surroundings and people within your immediate surroundings, and see that when things are happening to you and they don't have those symptoms, yeah, there's something going on here. Okay. All right. So let's see, where was I? Okay. So loss of report statement from the harassers themselves. They believe they are a kind of police who actually rank above the sworn constabulary, constabulary, right? Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Their groups help police by trying to alert people living in the target area that the target did something really bad at prior location. They believe themselves that as kind of Minutemen, always at the ready to be dispatched when called. Forming a network, the target can never escape. They feel, sometimes they try to tell you that you're trapped. And whenever you hear the word trap, like for me, they'll use either the car horn or the police siren that I'm trapped. Listen, I'm not trapped. The only reason why they think I'm trapped because, again, when you're limited financially, you can't travel as much. And I have traveled out the United States. Okay. And what they'll do is that they'll, like if I'm thinking about going somewhere and I'm online and say, okay, let's get a ticket to go somewhere, they'll target you with the police heavily to try to intimidate you into not going, right? Because it's, again, fear-based tactics that they use, right? And so when I do end up buying a ticket, I'm on my way, they'll cause distraction, disturbance, try to make you late, miss your flight, miss your train, miss your bus, whatever. Okay. And then when you get to, let's say if you're taking the plane, you get to the airport, what have you, they will mess with the flights. They'll say, well, your flights have been canceled or there's a delay on your flights. And then they kind of give you this feeling like, okay, well, they need to get approval in order for you to travel out the country or in order for you to travel out of the state or what have you. Right. So that's what they always do. Okay. But if you stay focused and, you become very reactive in terms of things happening around you. Hey, they delayed my flight. What's going on with this flight? And you got to keep a conscious minded effort to always check on these things, because if you don't, right, they will use silent sound to make you forget about those things. You'll be sitting there like a zombie. And before you know it, or I've tried to put you to sleep. And before you know it, flights such as boarding now, and you might miss your flight. Right. And if they see that that you still alert, still aware, right? And let's say the flight is there, right? They'll come and, they'll walk by you with some subliminal, oh yeah, like they're on the phone. Oh yeah, yeah, let me tell you that, yeah, it got approved. It's approved. Right. So it's to try to get you that, they try to make you believe that they had to approve you leaving. Okay. So anyhow, Lawson found that even, no, was I, sorry here. Let's see. Okay. They feel the fact that essentially all service worker and trades are members of the stalking group makes them a force a target doesn't want to deal with. Lawson believes these recruits are for those are those who feel powerless, inferior, and angry. Lawson reported some statistics he gathered regarding the motives. What motivates the perpetrators? 25% follow the nominal cause they were recruited under. 25% actually participated in the harassment. I think it's more than that. 75% occasionally or not at all. 10% join out of fear of being harassed themselves. Right? Lawson found that even firemen may support these groups. Well, you guys, I show you guys on video all the time. The use of the fire trucks, right, for noise targeting, right, a noise attack. I heard a number of reports that vehicular harassment has involved an above average number of vehicle bear stickers of firefighters or targets have traced perpetrator identities to firemen. And let me tell you, when I had a car, they used to break into my car all the time, and I couldn't understand it. Slash my tire. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And they would never take nothing. I would have money in the the change holder, on the council, right? I'm like, they will take everything except for the money. I'm sorry, wouldn't take anything, but they would take music CDs, right? And the money, leave the money right there. Okay. And I'm like, wow. Unbelievable. But yeah. So let me just move on. I don't want to spend too much time on this. But again, also as TIs, don't forget about, talk about Joyce Vincent, right? Talk about Joyce Vincent, right? This is a woman who lay dead in her apartment for 3 years. Okay? For 3 years. No eviction notice. No notice of having her electricity turned off. No notice of having her cable turned off. No one in her apartment building paid attention to the stench. I mean, I've read in one other article that people thought it was the garbage. I'm like, come on, really? So even when they came and they pick up the garbage, the stench was still there. Right? No one complained about it. Right? Ask yourself, how could that be? Her family didn't come and check up on her. Right? Her employers, no one. The landlord didn't come knocking on her door. You know what I'm saying? No one came to check up on this woman. And it's because they can use silent sound to basically erase your memory of anyone that they don't want you to remember. Right? She herself was a targeted individual. Okay? And it's a sad thing that I think that, that they murdered her within her apartment. And this is why, they use the technology to basically block out people's ability to think. All right. So for 3 years. Okay. So unbelievable, but these things do happen. All right. Now, again, let me go here and so during the video with Tamara Hill, the therapist, she was talking about it's very hard to believe that people would do such things, right? And no, it's not. Okay, and I want you to listen to this. This is a news report that was 10 years ago. Okay, Listen to this.
We've all had nasty neighbors, but an entire town? Think how annoyed you get when just one person honks at you. Now imagine all your neighbors driving by sitting on that horn 24/7. Are they tormenting one family, or did that family wear out its welcome? We want you to decide. Here's Paula Ferris.
So again, listen to how she phrased these things, right? Here you have an entire town attacking a couple, a family, right? With noise 24/7, right? But yet she wants the viewers to decide what. Okay, let's read it. Let me do this again.
All had nasty neighbors, but an entire town? Think how annoyed you get when just one person honks at you. Now imagine all your neighbors driving by sitting on that horn 24/7. Are they tormenting one family, or did that family wear out its welcome?
Are they tormenting one family, or did that family wear out its welcome? Right? So, I want you to understand this is what they call double speak. It's to plant the idea in your mind that this family might have done something or what have you. And even if they did something, you have law enforcement. Or let's say if something that's not involving law enforcement, it's not a crime. That means that this entire town have the right to do what they did. Right? Never mind the fact that what they've done to this family was not just cause harm physically, right, but psychologically. They're keeping people up, causing sleep deprivation. And what happened when you can't sleep, that you will end up getting psychosis, going through what is called psychosis, right? And there's the Tamara Hill, she talks about that, right? Psychosis, right? But it's funny how they will bring it up, but they never talk about the root cause, right? Also, lack of sleep, right? Sleep deprivation. And this is how they do it in the public. This is why I talk about the attack using noise, which is sometimes why I cannot go to sleep, because again, also being on the remote no monitoring, particularly when they're using radio for microwave frequency to, read my thoughts through the microchip, right? The chip is a transmitter receiver, so they can transmit information to me, and they can also monitor what my mind is thinking.
We want you to decide. Here's Paula Ferris.
Of all the homes in Hubbard, Ohio, it might be the last one you'd expect folks to fight over. But this vacant house on East Liberty Street is the hottest property since good old Nehemiah Hubbard founded the town 200 years ago. Oh, what a fuss over a little fixer-upper.
This all started in 2007 over a simple real estate deal, correct?
Right. It was the property next door here.
Meet Rick and Cindy Kurlich, longtime Hubbard residents. They say all they wanted was to buy the property next door. The only problem? It wasn't for sale. These folks, John and Marlene Clementi, had inherited half the house. The other half was tied up in court. But Rick Kurlich tried to buy it anyway, even though it had been in the Clementi family for generations.
I says, well, you're not getting my land. And I said, that's not right. It's my family since 1922. How could you do that?
The Clement family called me up and they told me to take my bid off the table. And if I didn't take my bid off the table, we'd be bitter enemies for life.
Rick never got the house, but he says he's still paying for what he did. As the town fire chief, Clementi had lots of friends, and suddenly Rick and Cindy say it seemed like every single one of them was driving by honking the horn, and it wasn't to say hello.
Okay. And this is what they do to me, particularly during the day. And what they do is that they mask it, particularly when I'm being on the remote no monitor, right? So when my conscious mind is being hijacked, right, and I'm looking at certain things, I'm holding certain things in my hand, particularly of certain color, certain objects, like let's say a knife, right? They'll use the sirens. The color green from, they'll use the sirens. I'm holding a green cup, what have you. If I'm eating, like let's say if I put food to eat and I pick up the food in my hand to go warm it up, or if I'm taking it out of the pot to get ready to eat it, they will use their police sirens, or they will use the car horn, right? Same thing when I'm finished eating, as I put stuff in the sink. And I showed you guys whenever I open up the sink with the water, and I showed you how they did that. early in my targeting, I would come home, and every time I would come home, they will use the water bottle. They will place a water bottle on the what do you call the on the column, right? They will place a water bottle there, or a water bottle, on my way. They'll also place a water bottle on top of the street. What do you call it? The pedestrian walk sign, right? They will literally place water bottles on top of there, right? Or they'll place the water bottle on top of a car, on the hood of a car. And it was happening so frequently, right? And then they start to transmit the using silent sound, water is life, right? Water is life. So if I saw a water bottle, in my mind, I kept saying, water is life, right? And then they started placing empty bottles of water, right? And then half a bottle of water, or then a little bit of water in the bottle, right? But they couple that with the harassment from the New York Predator Department. Okay. So again, just like I said, this is not hard for me to explain because I've studied their program, their tactics, right? How they use symbols, right? Brands, Levi's, with the Levi's jeans has the V, right? Brands like Champion. Okay. Also, there's a baseball team, the Chicago Cubs, with the and the Washington football team, right? So anything that has W, V, because they try to make it into a competition, whether you're first, second, or third. Like for example, if I'm watching a video and it says first, they use the police sirens. Right? Up, they use the police sirens. Love, they use the police sirens. Right? Whenever you try to do something good, whenever you're being friendly, they use the police sirens. Right? Or they'll just send people around, people that and as you're talking to them, they will engage in what I call conversational hypnosis, but as well as certain kind of movement that they do, right? Cross pattern movement, and they'll do it continuously. It is to make you put you into some sort of trance, right? Or to elicit, again, like I said, the fight or flight phenomenon. Okay. But ultimately, it is because they have put you into a non-consensual human experimentation program. And in order for them to get away with it, they need to do certain things to discredit you, to keep you from coming forward, right? And to use law enforcement as a tool to engage in coercive threats against you coming forward. Okay? They'll use poisoning, right? Many times I've been poisoned, so you guys hear me say this a lot. I don't eat at IHOP. I haven't been to IHOP in over a decade and a half. Right? Because every time I went to IHOP, particularly when my oldest son was younger, right? He loved IHOP. And for 4 straight visits to IHOP, I got food poisoning. The last one was so bad, I never went back there again. Okay? Now they're kicking balls outside. Plastic balls. That whole kick the bucket thing. That's what they do. Okay? So yeah, let me finish doing this. Well, I guess that's just, I can never do a short video that comes to this stuff. But there's just so much to talk about.
The family conspired together to organize a horn-blowing campaign against us.
Right, because it's organized. Okay? This is organized. Right? This is not some one-off. This is organized. Whether those within the community, right, who think that they are, above the law, right, And again, go look at what you call the forgot the name of it, but the state fusion centers, right? Go read about fusion centers. Go read about Zoom, right? Where you had in East Germany well over 1 million citizens, right, who were agents for the state. And they would use their position as agents for the state within this program to target people who they dislike. You know, if they wanted to break up somebody's marriage to get their wives, or if they're interested in a woman or a man and somebody else is interested in that individual that they know, they will use the state, lie to the state, and use the state to attack this individual or those individuals. Okay, and there's no question asked. It was very pervasive. Same thing happens here. Same thing's happening here, and it's been happening here. At least in Europe, a lot of European countries have passed laws against what they call organized mobbing or workplace mobbing or mobbing in society. In Europe, they've actually passed laws against these things, but you will not find any laws passed here in the United States against these things because the government uses these groups. They use civilian groups. Okay. And this is way more pervasive than anybody could imagine. There are a lot of people walking around where experiencing bad luck all throughout their adult life, and they don't know it's because they've been put into such programs. Okay. This is how criminal and ridiculous this is. All right. So here's another video.
Or maybe you sensed it, that feeling that you're being watched. Well, the state has laws against stalking on the books, making it a felony.
What if police don't recognize it? And what if it's a complete stranger who's bothering you? Tonight, Joe Conger and the I-Team investigates.
But I want you to understand how they will always say a complete stranger as just to individualize it, right? It's not. This is a group-based criminal organization who is being shielded by law enforcement, right? And you know that particularly in the black community, because black people are more believers of the Christian faith, right? So it's easy for them to come into the black community and manipulate black churchgoers, all right, or black believers of the faith into engaging in such behavior.
Cynthia Verbeff is moving. Her home, she says, has become a house of horrors.
I feel that I've lost my mind. I've lost my life.
Incident reports from law enforcement tell the tale. Numerous break-ins at the address. Vandalism to her car, her motorcycle, her computer. Verbeff believes she's being targeted.
Everything. They just went through everything.
But sheriff's detectives had little to go on because the vandals, though often destructive, stole nothing.
Right. So like I said, so this is what happened to me when, with my car, right? Constant break-in, constant tire slashes. And again, sometimes I have the change thing open and the change will be there. They'll take nothing. All right. I remember one time me and my friend went to Philadelphia. We went to a party. All right. We came out of the party and got in, and he had stuck his head through the passenger side door. And I turned and I was like, did I leave my car door open? When I looked on the floor, glass everywhere. My car was the only car they broke into at that party. And all they did was take a few CDs, music CDs. That was it. Okay. Now this was in the early 2000s, right? But prior to that, in the late 1990s, there were things that was happening to me that was very strange. And my brother was a target, but he never told me about these things. Because again, they had him on medications, and again, something that he never talked to me about. But the reason why is because they were trying to silence. Well, they were silencing him from speaking about what was happening to him to anyone, until I started talking about it, and he was like, and he got this awakening. He's like, man, I've been going through this since the mid-90s. Okay. And he was like, my therapist at one point told me that that this was going to happen to you, because they had diagnosed him with schizophrenia. And he was like, well, my brother don't have it. And they're like, well, the psychiatrist told him straight up, your brother will develop it later, or will have it later, right? See, they know what they were doing because, again, they target families. Just like how I show you guys how they target my kids within the school system, right? By bullying them, getting other kids to bully them. So these cult parents are training their kids to be exactly like them when they grow up to be adults.
Even from her portable safe drilled into and torn apart, the contents, the jewelry, remained untouched.
So again, do you see how they skirt around and because they're being trained how to, if you get breaking and entering, but nothing is taken, so it's not theft, right? And then also the damage that they do, right? It's just, let's say if they may get caught, right? So they may not even get jail time because the damage may not amount to over a certain amount of dollars, right? So they're being trained very well in how to engage in such tactics and behaviors. And if they get caught, then they don't receive any jail time because, again, they're not stealing anything of value or worth. It's just little stuff. A lot of times with me, they'll steal personal items like my toothbrush, right? Or your hair comb. Okay, to try to create paranoia that they're going to set you up and place certain things at the crime scene so that they can have your DNA, right? All because they want to silence you. Okay, but a lot of these people don't understand that this is bigger than just them recruiting you to target someone. This is about non-consensual human experimentation and trying to discredit those who they put into this program, right, from coming forward, or to keep them in this program.
Troubles didn't start until she met these two men. One would become her ex-boyfriend. The other was his partner in a San Antonio pain clinic, Dr. John Hall.
Very first time I met him, we went to his house on 4th of July, and he told me that because I was already there in his house, I would be the next victim that I was.
You see, and this is one of the reasons why I don't date. This is one of the reasons why I don't date, because, again, they may be sending you a honey trap, or it could be somebody who, and again, these women, sometimes they don't want to believe you, right? They don't want to believe you, okay, until it starts happening to them. But by that time, they had already broken up the relationship by sending more honey traps, and they move on to the next. A big part is also what is called ritual abuse. So you keep the religious fanatics happy by allowing them to do what is called ritual abuse. And why? Because they have developed the mindset, the dark triad personality traits within cult members, right? So, just like the Colosseum in Rome was built to do what? To keep Roman citizens entertained, to forget about the harsh treatment and the harsh life they were suffering under the Roman rulership. Okay? Give them bread and give them circus. And they'll be happy. They'll be content. Okay? But now, with the technology like Silent Sound, they're going to program you to be content. They're going to program you to not protest. They're going to program you to see genocide taking place and say nothing, do nothing.
Verbeff found the doctor's prophecy to be correct. She suffered months of oddness.
Coming in through the front door, and I touch the doorknob, and it just falls into pieces.
Lights left on, doors open, furniture moved, her clothes dryer disassembled. Her friends say they noticed the strange happenings. They tell the I-Team they even witnessed a gas oven left turned on.
As soon as you walk in.
So again, I want you to understand the crimes that these people commit. And I just heard law enforcement, New York Predator Department. I was talking about the gas being left on. All right. And also when they're targeting me so heavily, right, I usually try not to cook, because there are times when I have cooked and I have turned the stove on and forgot about it, right? So there's certain things that I rarely do, and I always got to double check myself. This is why on my phone, you should see how much alarms that I have on my phone. I mean, it's also because, when I was staying with the kids' mom, to get up on time and such. But there are times, like I said, they used to wake me up every hour, 32 minutes past the hour, for nights on nights on nights, and until I started to realize what was happening. And whenever I would wake up, the first thing I would look at was the cable box, because it had the time on it, right? And then I stopped when I would get up, right? I wouldn't look at anything. I would just make a conscious decision to go back to sleep. And when I go back to sleep, within because I didn't look anymore, so when I went back, tried back to sleep, within the space of a few minutes, they'll send the fire trucks or the New York Predator Department to drive by and just use their sirens. Okay.
The house, you'd smell gas in the house. So the whole house smelled from gas. So immediately turned it off and opened up the doors. But I mean, that thing doesn't just turn on by itself. And it'd been running for a good length of time.
Or
exactly.
the time,
you know, I will come home and I will find things missing or things placed into. Matter of fact, when I was sleeping, I would get up and they would place a penny on the floor. And so what I started doing was taking a glass of water. You know, it got so bad that I started barricading in my bedroom door, because I figured they were either waking me up in the middle of the night without me knowing it, open up the door for them, but they will always leave something behind. So that I noticed. Now they leave it in front of my door. Right? Some article or something. It has to do with a color, right?
Verbeff and a friend say they were stalked at a mall.
I saw him following us to several stores, and I would see the man close to us, looking at us.
The girls had the presence of mind to snap a photo with their phone. Verbeff says all these happenings culminated in an assault. The 39-year-old believes someone drugged the food in her home and returned later to rape her.
I know something happened to me because a woman knows.
She filed a report and was briefly hospitalized with signs of sexual assault. Dr. Hall says what Verbeff describes is known as gang stalking. Indeed, he writes about it in his book, A New Breed, Satellite Terrorism in America.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. What else I have here? Here's another woman. It's a black woman. Listen, watch this.
It's the thing nightmares are made of.
You know, it's so creepy that I decided to have a bolt put on the door, and I'm having my son sleep in here with me.
Creepy only begins to describe it.
It's like an alternate reality, really.
When she'd get home from work, Fasika Tafara started noticing things out of place in her home.
They were just all open, but what was weird is, so for example, they were open like this, but they were all at the same level.
First, the window.
So what they do, and they do it with me too, like sometimes I'll be walking by and they'll be sitting in their car and then they'll open their car door. Right? And hear as I say, walking by, hear in the background. Now I have my noise canceling on my audio device on. My audio, I should say, audio interface. Right? I have the noise reduction off, the block off background noise. So I use my device, which is a Stream Deck, which I have the sounds program into. So whenever I use it, it's because I'm hearing the New York Predator Department outside, because they listen to my conversation where I'm doing this video. They hack into my computer, my phone, and again also through remote neural monitoring. Which when they start to do it, I get terrible headaches. Right? So this is what they'll do. Okay. And again, I know it's criminal. They know it's criminal. Okay. It's the violation of every right that you can think of. Okay. That's why, I always love that video with Louis Farrakhan. He's talking to who was it? Mike Wallace. And Mike Wallace talk about Idi Amin, who was the president of Uganda at the time. And he was like, well, he was violating the rights of the citizen. Well, in America has violated the rights of black citizens since enslavement. And even after the abolition of slavery, they continue to, treat black people in such a way that, at times I think it was worse than slavery, like destroying whole towns because they were doing better than some black people were doing better than some white people. And they will literally destroy their towns, murder hundreds of thousands, actually, of black men and women and children, dropping bombs on black towns and black homes. rolling tanks into black neighborhoods. Okay? I mean, come on. Anyhow, so when Farrakhan said, he looked at Mike White and he said, who are you to talk about morality? America should not be talking about morality. And I agree even to this day. I may love America, but let me tell you, right? When you start to remain silent, like particularly what is happening in Gaza, right? I know the technology is working. All right, silence down. The suppression of your emotions, of your thoughts, right? And what does that is the use of weapons based on the microwave and radio wave frequency spectrum.
Windows, then lights turned on, her cabinets pulled out.
It's intended to let me know that somebody has been
exactly.
Here,
it's to cause fear and paranoia.
Right? So all of the drawers have been pulled out. And
something strange every single day for almost the past month. She finally realized someone has been coming inside.
Are people?
So here's my thing, right? Why is it that very few TIs are on the news like this? Listen, I've known TIs who have documented what they experience, okay, and are rarely interviewed. And I think it's because maybe these people may have known somebody who may know somebody in the media, what have you. Because when they talk to the majority of TIs that you see them talk to, these TIs are talking about aliens, reptilians, and this and that to discredit us. All right. So, and again, we have very few instances where you have TIs targeted people who are on the news like this, explaining what is being done and showing what is being done. Right. And there are tens of thousands of TIs in America, not hundreds, tens of thousands, right? Possibly even millions, where the vast majority don't even know what's happening to them.
Following me, and then I started to wonder also, well, how do they know when I'm here and when I'm not here?
Then Tafara found this small camera in her 11-year-old son's bedroom. So she took to the internet and started digging. What she found? Something called community or gang stalking. It's an eerie practice aimed at your psyche to make you almost feel like you're going crazy.
It's spooky, and my understanding is that if this is in fact what it is, it can go on for years,
Only you're not. Tafara left her phone recording audio at her house.
Yes.
Listen.
So she's like, you think you're going crazy, and he goes, only you're not. Right?
You can hear what sounds like people rummaging around. On one, you can hear what sounds like drilling.
Okay. Now, does that mean that she has not suffered psychologically? All right. Does that mean that a year from now, 2 years from now, 7 years from now, 8 years from now, that she won't be diagnosed with mental illness? You see, the perpetrators of these crimes think that they can deprogram you, right? That the psychological scar, that they can heal it, and they think by making you believe that you have a mental illness, right? And if you do have a mental illness, it is based on what they have done to you. That somehow makes it better, right? Or they can put you on medication, disability, and that's it, right? Scratch you, you're fine. All right. So just think about the mindset of the people who have created these programs and who operate these programs. Think about the mindset that they have. Yeah. And as I said that, right? Think about that. And remember, these people are in positions of power. They can change the rules, make rules, create new rules, do whatever they want. This is why they can always get away with things like this.
So this hole here has been cut into the attic space.
Tafara says detectives have been to the house.
It's kind of like, if it happens again, call us, but there's not much we can do.
Something that makes this even more terrifying.
All right. So when when a therapist like Tamara Hill, and again, I subscribe to her. I like her content. She gives very good advice. But when it comes to gang stalking and stuff like that, and I think they do this to maybe bring patience to her, right? Because there's a number of reasons they'll do things, right? So I would advise her just keep your thoughts, right? Always be aware of your thoughts in terms of how you are talking to TIs, and they could bring, you know, they can manipulate her to bring TIs onto her show, and she does these videos in order to try to convince TIs that they're, you know, that they're suffering from some sort of psychological illness, and that's it, right? Never mind that these TIs may have proof that, you know, that they've been damaged physically, they've been damaged neurologically, right? But to always try to keep it into, try to convince them that, oh, just it's, you know, you just have a mental illness, right? And you may have, right? But was that mental illness inherently within you, right? Was it something that you were born with, or was it something that was externally done to you to cause you to have that mental illness, right? So they cannot try to escape that, right? And this is what you have to be as a TI. You have to always remember this, okay? That what is happening to you, right, was brought on externally. You were attacked, and you continue to be attacked, right? And they'll use psychology. Like I said, sometimes they'll keep it in the psychological realm. As I said, sometimes, right? Certain words they'll use. So they'll want to keep it in the psychological realm, right? And me, like I said, I don't separate my experience from being black and separate it from being a TI, right? Because I know the history. I know that those within the races within the police department, within the U.S. Government, right? Particularly talk about COINTELPRO, right? That memo that said that the FBI will infiltrate the black community, either killing those who consider to be a threat, who can unite black people, or controlling them. And you look at black celebrities today, right? That's who they want to say is our leaders. Because why? They've assassinated black leaders, true black leaders, right? The ones who understand that we need to unite. And whether it be peacefully or any other way, they don't want either. This is why they kill Martin Luther King. This is why they kill Malcolm X. This is why they killed Dr. Khalid Muhammad, right? This is why they gave Dr. Amos Wilson cancer, right? We as black people, we have to look at these things, right? And whenever black people start to gather wealth collectively, things happen within the economy to wipe out that wealth. It is a tactic and a pattern that white Americans have used, and particularly those within the financial industry or the financial business, you know, is to keep particularly black people in America at a poverty level. No political power, no economical power, right? The use of psychiatry, technology, the police, right, in order to subdue any sort of what they will call black radical thinking, meaning that if you stand up to an oppressive state, if you stand up against racist police officers who continue to kill unarmed black men and children, that you're considered a threat, you have to look at their mindset, their personality. Not the victims are only going to be displaying the symptoms that was brought on or caused by those who are oppressive, those who are racist, those who will do things to destroy black people's lives, black people's mind, black children's life, black children's mind, because, you know, they're racist. It's just funny how none of these psychiatrists never seem to want to analyze the mindset of those in power and their behavior that they engage in. Right? Why? Because they've made an industry in which they can make a living off. So are they going to start speaking the truth? You know, this is why, like I said, if you look at Sweden in particular, and what they have been doing is really trying to dig deeper into understanding, what's going on, particularly when it comes to the field of psychiatry. Okay. All right. What else I want to show you guys here? Okay, so quick, let's talk about this now. This is former FBI
What
agents.
exactly can the government do to him, to any of us, whether we're on the watch list or not? As a journalist, my first hunch is to go straight to the source. Michael German is a former FBI agent who has experience with the terrorism watch list.
What is the internal designation given to people who are on that watch list?
Known or suspected terrorist.
Do you need to be a known or suspected terrorist to be given that designation?
No, you do not.
Okay. I want you to understand that they can put anybody on whatever watch list, whether it be terrorist watch list or whatever watch list they want. Right? And then what happens when you become on that watch list? Now they can get a court order to surveil you, surveil your phone, tap your phone, what have you, to, recruit community members to surveil you, to stalk you.
There's plenty of evidence that people were put on these lists were investigated for no reasons. So you're building this expanding pool of suspects based on little or no real evidence.
What are the most extreme things that can happen to you if you end up in that system?
There's so little transparency that we don't know all the ways that the watch list might be used.
All right, so you guys can go look at this video, all right? Because there's a lot. And I was planning to do this for half an hour, but it's impossible. I'm going on an hour and 30 minutes now, and it's a lot, right? So let's talk about DARPA secrets. We're going to move on to technology.
2018. The U.S. government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, commonly known as DARPA, announces a bold initiative to develop what they call next-generation non-surgical neurotechnology.
Okay, and this is nothing new. They've been able to do this since the 1960s.
It is designed to allow the human brain to directly interface with machines.
We know that DARPA is exploring human-machine interfaces that include direct connections between the brain and outside systems. That's been from the beginning of DARPA's information technology mission, and it continues to this day. DARPA has created some of the most influential technologies of all time, things that we use and take for granted every day, including the project that became the internet.
All right, so you saw that, right? The 1960s.
They've created self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars, 1984. Okay. But you see, when you have no clue, no idea that these things have been done before, right? And now you start to see self-driving cars, and everybody thinking that's new. Oh wow, self-driving cars. Yeah. Everybody's like, woo. Yeah, self-driving cars. They've been able to do this since 1984.
Stealth technology, GPS that fits in your pocket. That's DARPA's specialty, to imagine the future and create it.
A new technology that is actually very much on the verge of being a reality that is being fielded is we could have a sensor maybe on the surface of our head, or maybe implanted somewhere in our body, in our brain, or something that allows us to interact directly with our communications gear, our processing gear, our weapon systems, and so on. But now imagine we take that technology and we can control robots at a distance with it. Even fly drones. You put this sensor on and you think the right way, and you can increase the speed of the fan by thinking and controlling that thought with direct-to-mind or mind-machine interfacing. With that type of capability, you could control all sorts of buttons and mechanisms in equipment.
Mind-machine interfaces will have many applications in both civilian and military life.
Okay, that's
ability of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969. but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain.
Okay, so he said that the project ended in 1969. Okay, so again, I want to show you guys that that's a lie. Okay, and again, he may not know that, he's just reading from a script. Okay, so I want to show you guys. Let's see, where is this article? And again, I showed you guys this article before. All right, so it's nothing new. And, you know, I had it there. Let me see. Always can't find certain things when I want to find it, when I know that I've had it before. Let's see here. Hold up now. I gotta do a search again. I might have there we go, Dr. Jose Delgado. Okay, I want to show you guys. So when they say, oh yeah, these program ended in 1969, he says, but yet you'll see here, let me show you guys, let me pull up the article. And 1970, okay, New York Times article. Okay, now I want, if you guys can, let me do this. Let's go back to, is it this one? Right. So I want you to see this image right here. Okay. Now that is, if you look on his head, he has these two type of connectors, right? Sender receiver. Okay. So it's a chip placed inside of his brain, and you have the two connectors, one sending, one receiving. So one is receiving information, and then one is sending information, right? So I want you to see how big this is, right? Now, when we go back to here, you see this rhesus monkey. Let me, as I said, rhesus monkey. Right? Here, it says, the pupil of this monkey left eye dilate in response to stimulation from electrode planted in the hypothalamic region of his brain. By varying the intensity of ESB, that's electronic stimulation of the brain, Delgado can adjust the pupil size as easy as they were camera lens. So remember, I did a video maybe a few years back. My daughter was in dance, and you know, I wear reading glasses, right? And I had my glasses with me, and I was going to read, just waiting on her. And when I look at my phone, I didn't need my glasses. I was able to see the text clear as day. Okay. And then we came out of dance, went back home, what have you. The next day, when I went to get my phone to read another article, I needed my glasses. They were trying to show me, or trying to convince me to not talk about it, to allow them to do what they're doing, because they can do stuff like this, right? See, that's not going to convince me, because, you know, you need to ask me first, right? You're going against the law, something that you've agreed to as a government. It's a state agency, right? Because of the Nuremberg trial, right? That if you are engaging in that you are not allowed to engage in non-consensual human experimentation unless you ask that. You have to ask those victims for consent, or the individuals for consent. And so what they'll try to do, again, I talk about, they try to manufacture consent. So if I'm installing a software on my computer, then it's like they try to tell me, well, you know, because you agreed. No. Because again, I'm agreeing to install the software on my computer, not my brain. I know my brain is a computer, right? But I look at the choices and I said, okay, I want to install it. Yes. Don't want to install it. No. That's not what they're doing. What they've done is that they've manipulated you, right? Implanted you, put you in a non-consensual experimentation program, and do all this stuff, right? And then, right, try to use coercive persuasion, coercive threats, right, in order to gain your consent. And how do they gain your consent? By you being silent, by silencing you. Okay? So, 1970. All right? And then, right? So again, this is rather crude back in the days, right? So this is in the 60s, this picture, right? Now if we zoom in, right? And again, I've shown you guys this. Okay. If we zoom in, he talks about a rhesus monkey named Linda. Right here. If we go over to the right, okay, this is, let me just, so the second paragraph down where it says in a small corridor, right, the eyes capitalized. Okay, now if you go down to the next paragraph where it says he parts the hair on her shoulder, revealing an almost invisible transdermal brain stimulator. Right? Again, this is they're doing this wirelessly. Right? They are doing in 1970s, they're able to control the behavior of an animal as well as human beings, because they've done a lot of experiments on human beings, majority of them black, but they don't tell you that. Okay, particularly Dr. Robert Heath from Tulane University, okay, in which he calls black. He said black people are cheaper than cats. He likes using black people because they're cheaper than cats. All right, this stuff is documented. Okay, so again, he parts the hair on her shoulder, revealing an almost invisible transdermal brain stimulator. Linda has been wearing this for over a year now. It's very important in its implication for humans. One of the real difficulty with humans is the cosmetic one. This transdermal can be placed below the skin and sealed forever so that there are no unsightly plugs or equipment showing. We're working on another one. We're working now on another one that would be even smaller. So 1990, they talk about how DARPA, the DOD, CIA, when it comes to technology, the military, they're at least a decade to 2 decades ahead of the public sector. And a lot of times, the technology that the public sector you see bring out to the public has been given to them, particularly American tech companies, by the military. So when you see they talk about, when they show you on YouTube or on the television about emerging technology, understand that that's just in the public sector. The technology's already emerged. It's already created within the military, the CIA, DARPA, right? The internet. You saw that in the 1960s, right? Then in the 1970s, they're, being able to transmit communication data in a more concise form. And then by 1991, we see the implementing of the internet. And who was the first company? You had Netscape and you had America Online, right? To now where, because again, I was in college when the internet came out. You had to use dial-up service. You hear that's ringing, and then there's that welcome to America Online, right? Now look at how we use the internet today. It is vast and it is incredible, right? It contains information that you have to go to the library, right, to take out a book or go to a book and write stuff down. Now you don't have to. You copy and paste. You print it out. Boom, right? You can type, yeah. Then you have the cell phone. But look what's happening to our minds, particularly with the advent of the cell phone. Look at what's happening to our minds, right? We lose our ability to, for our brain to regulate sleep. You know, our kids are becoming cognitively, their cognitive skills are declining. Their learning ability are declining, right? And a big part of it is because they're using radio or microwave technology, and your phone acts as a transmitter receiver. Now, for those of us who have been implanted with a microchip, right, that is happening within our brain as well as our cell phone. All right, so we're getting a double dose of radio wave microwave frequency, which is why we suffer a lot of headaches, which is why we lack the ability to sleep. You know, if I have melatonin, I take now. Okay, I used to take a sleep aid. Right but there are times when sometimes I'm able to fall asleep, but that's just probably about 5 to 10% of the time. The other 90-95% of the time, I can't. And particularly when they're constantly engaging in noise attacks, it becomes very difficult. Okay, so anyhow, like I said, I just wanted to show you guys. So whenever you go to these, you print this stuff out, or have the websites. You can download the articles on your phone or what have you, or you can copy the web link. Show your therapist, educate them. Okay, they're not going to know, so we have to educate them, right? And again, this is why I do what I do. We have to educate even our therapists. They don't know. Okay. And again, they want to talk about some of the symptoms. Again, this is an article called let me scroll up here. Okay. This is a research paper, right? Again, 1970s, hold on here, biological effect of electromagnetic radiation. So they know this stuff. They've done the research on this stuff. So when they're telling the American public, well, no such technology exists, and the diplomats, it's first they said it's in their mind, so again, trying to throw them on the bus, saying that they're crazy, right? But I know, because guess what? I have the information. This is knowledge. This is what they don't want you to have. This is what they don't want you to know. That they have been trickling down technology slowly to the public sector, but they're way ahead. They're at least 2 decades ahead, right? So imagine how advanced they are when it comes to certain things, right? When they talk about Elon Musk, Neuralink, look, we as TIs, we've been implanted with microchip for decades now. Decades. Right? And it's hard for us to prove it because they interfere. Right? They use threats, to keep people silent. Right? This is why I show you guys how they will attack me. And here's another article from The Guardian. U.S. hid fear of radiation in Moscow embassy in 70s from staff. Documents showed. I talked about this. They threw their own workers under the bus, just like how they're throwing their own workers under the bus today. Except, now they're like, okay, well, we're going to take care of you. We're going to put you on disability. Just like do to us as TIs. Okay. And because we continue as TIs, those of us who continue to expose it and to expose it in a manner in which, in a credible way, right? They attack us. And one of the things that they do, again, is trying to use coercive threats, take away your disability, finance, try to make you homeless, whatever, running the coercive persuasion program, or so-called behavioral change program. But it's not to change your behavior for the good. It's to silence you, right? Okay? When they're the one that needs to be in a coercive persuasion program to change their behavior and the way how they think. All right? So here is a article, right, of a testimony. They talk about, again, non-lethal acoustic weapons suitable for use in urban combat. All right. And it's funny how they always talk about Russian research and development. I hear the noise in the background, interference. You get louder, louder whenever I start to show you guys the truth. So now they got to cause interference. You know, that's a silent sound happening there. So anyhow, this, you know, there's plenty of documents online. You just have to know, and this is from the Homeland Security, right? Homelandhouse.gov, right? This is testimony. All right. So what they're accusing the Russians of, they are doing the same thing here in the United States. They have done the exact same thing. Political assassination, the use of psychiatry as a weapon against civil rights leaders, right, and human rights leaders, civil rights activists and human rights activists. All right. Here's another about the microwave mysteries, subject Pandora and Bizarre, the Moscow Signal declassified microwave mysteries. Right, 1953 to 1979. Okay. All right. What the Moscow Signal was? The Moscow Signal a historical precedent for the Havana Syndrome, a Project Bizarre, Pentagon official conducted radiation tests on monkeys, planned secret human experimentation. All right. This is from the archive site. You know, like I said, I'm glad there's somebody out there, or people out there who's, archiving the internet. Because let me tell you, I've watched videos, right, where there's certain things that are being said in those videos, and I go back to watch it, and they basically dubbed over what was said in the past. Okay. So again, we talk about what is it called? Deep fake. You know, all these things and what they are doing and they've done, right? And because again, you know, particularly as I said, as black people, we are believers. We are believers. You know, we still think God is the only one that can control our minds and put thoughts in our mind. As I said, most black people, when you hear them talk about, well, God spoke to me, God told me this and that, it's technology being used on them. If you go to your Bible, it'll tell you God don't speak to you anymore. Right? The last of the person who spoke to was himself, Jesus. And that if you want to hear God's word, you go to the Bible. And if you're dealing with any issues, you go to your pastor, who hopefully is trained, went to seminary school, who got a degree to say, well, okay, this is how the Bible is interpreted. And again, all these universities, when it comes to interpreting the Bible, should interpret it one way. Right? But that's not what's being done. So black people have been conditioned with delusional mindset. This is why we code switch, right? Because we have a double personality that we don't even think about. You know, get around white people. Oh, you start talking this and that. You know, you get around you know, that's code switching. I don't need to do that when I get around anybody. I'm myself. Right? I'm myself. I may do a little Jamaican lingo, even though I'm not from Jamaica, but I grew up with a lot of Jamaicans. Used to go do the dancehall culture, DJ and all that stuff. So, you know, and I came when I was very young. So from my young age all the way up to now, you know, I don't even have my country's accent. I don't have that. So yeah, but I never, but I stay true to who I am, right? In other sense, in terms of, you know, where I'm from, being black, seeing black people as one, right? And seeing everybody as human beings, right? I know that there isn't a black race, a white race, an Asian race. I know there's a human race, but I know that white Europeans have constructed this thing called race and racism because of their inferior mindset, that they had to create these things to fool the world, right? And they had to hide a lot of things. So when I talk about these technologies, you have to understand the mindset of these people. They train their offspring to be the same way. So they'll lie, they'll deceive, they'll manipulate, right? They'll create villains in order to distract everyone from what it is that they've been doing and from who they are. Okay, so DARPA, next generation non-surgical technology. All right, you can go onto the DARPA site. You can read about these things. Right now, they've kind of scaled back on some of the information. I can't blame them. All right. Now, here's the one of the best PDF documents you can find is a TI, right, by Mark Rich, who also have there's a book called The Hidden Evil, right, as well as other books that he has. Very informative. I could talk about him a lot. One of the few TIs in the beginning of my target, in that I found and started reading the stuff that he put out, and I'm just he inspired me, and he's one of the reasons why I do what I do, as well as Miriam, who I haven't heard from her in a while, but she was she was always blaming Boyd and Gray, even though she was very vast in terms of understanding her targeting, but again, sometimes we become fixated on a particular individual because that depended on our setting and how we became targeted. So I don't just place my fixation in terms of blaming just one particular person, right? I know it's the U.S. government. I know everybody else is being used and manipulated without their knowledge, without their consent, and how they move the pieces, how they work behind the shadows to manipulate us. And so, I'm a little bit more understanding, right? Even though sometimes I get cursed out by other TIs also, but, I don't take it personal. All right. Let's see what else I have here. Joyce Vincent. Talk about Joyce Vincent, right? Go read up about her. And again, here's a declassified document. And this one is good. You guys go download this, read it. All right. Here goes psychoacoustic correction. All right. Talking about the Russians were using microwave radio frequency again to create, the sort of minds that they want to create. The first Gulf War, right, in the 1990s. Was it the second Gulf War, where the use of silent sound on Saddam Hussein, what was they called, Republic Revolutionary Guard, that caused them to give up, right? Because they were beaming things into their mind, again, using their own inner voice, not another person's voice, but their own inner voice, right? Here's a Lincoln article on synthetic telepathy, the hidden truth. Again, and right. So again, and for Tamara Hill, I want her to, if you guys watch this, and I'm going to share this video on her channel. Here you have this is show you how people can do things to other people. So and as I said, it just bothers me when these therapists, don't really want to listen, right, and take into account that these things could be happening. Okay. And all TIs want from therapists is to listen, is to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I may not quite understand what you're going through, because my training will tell me that you're such and such, you have this method, this have you, but you could be right, right? But again, what can you do to prove it, right? And what can we do to help you cope with what's being done to you? Or what can I do, to help you cope, right? Do I, and again, they need to understand how you're being manipulated psychologically using anchors and triggers, right? So you have to study your own target and how your emotions are being manipulated, convey that to your therapist, and hopefully they can give you the tools you need, right? Either to create new anchors or create new anchors while you're explaining certain things. And I understand that, they listen to whatever it is that we're saying. Some things you may not be comfortable with saying, but just put it in another way, right? So they can help you, you can give them a better understanding and they can help you. That's why it's important that you learn psychological terms, psychological conditioning, tactics used, methods used. So go look at Ivan Pavlov, classical conditioning, B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning, James Watson. I forgot. I always remember Pavlov and B.F. Skinner, but something I get mixed up with B.F. Skinner and James Watson in terms of what it is that they were studying and what psychological psychological this I want to say discovery, but psychological method that they coined, right? So go learn about these things, right? One of the best books you can go get to understand how you can be manipulated using neurolinguistic doc NLP is Don DeLine Jones, Mind Control Language Patterns. Okay, and recommend that to your therapist that they read it also. Right. So here's another article called "Controlling the Brain with Light." Right now, they've been able to do this since the 1970s again. Right. So if you read this, it talks about this. Right. How right here in 1979, Scientific American article, Nobel laureate Francis Crick suggests that the major challenges facing neuroscience was a need to control one type of cell in the brain while leaving others unaltered. Right. This is what is called what is it? Not epigen. I was say epigenetics. It's optogenetics. That's what it's called. Using light to control the brain. Okay, and we see them use frequencies to control the directions of worms just by beaming radio wave frequencies. Right. Another article. Robert Heath claims to have cured homosexuality by implanting electrode into the pleasure center of the brain. Robert Covell report on one of the great forgotten stories of neuroscience. It isn't a great forgotten story. It is a horrible forgotten stories. But also understand that the CIA was also working on the same sort of technology and how to turn a straight person gay and a gay person straight, right? And again, as a black person, a Hispanic person, I'm going to tell you guys need to go look at the research, right? Because Hispanic people today are most likely to identify as gay and bisexual and lesbian, right? It used to be white people, then it was black people, then Hispanic people. And white people are identifying less and less today as gay, bisexual, and transgender. Even though what they show you in the news and all this stuff is just propaganda to manipulate you into thinking that white people are the ones who are identifying as such the most, when they're not. It is how they manipulate you. Meanwhile, they're using technology to manipulate your mind to become attracted to the same sex, or and you engage in bisexual behavior. This is why party drugs, ecstasy, all these things, these drugs rewire your brain. And they also are made to enhance your sexual experience. And once you're on these drugs and you experience, if you're heterosexual and you go to a party and people are on that drug and, you're taking it, you have a sex, it makes you more susceptible to now having another man come and push his penis in your, because again, you get the pleasure, the heightened pleasure, right? And then what happens when that happens? Guess what? Now you're embarrassed. Now people can try to use that against you to blackmail you, to what have you. This is what they do, right? This is the culture that they create, right? This is why, particularly in the black community, a lot of black women behave the way that they do, because they use sex as a weapon, right? And they have taught that because why? Because the CIA used to use sex as a weapon against people, honey trapping, right? You know what I'm saying? So again, understanding these things. Also, this is a PDF you can find. It's called "Microwave Advance in the Effect of Microwave Radiation on Brains," right? Military medical research. Okay, that already. The controllers. A new hypotheses on alien abduction. Again, this talks about how with the CIA mind control program, they were basically manipulating people's mind for those who they experimented on, and putting false memories within their mind about being abducted by aliens. Okay, in order for the U.S. government, the security agency, to get away with it, because you're not blaming the U.S. government, the CIA, or any other private institution that is funded by the CIA or the NSA or the Navy or the military. So you're only blaming aliens, right? Are you going to take the alien to court? I don't think so. All right. Here's another. Okay, this one. So yeah. let's get back to this. All right. So again, let's continue to listen to a little bit more.
We literally have only 2 research studies that really could be considered not really a research study for some people on this topic of gang stalking, okay?
Your child needs these 3 key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 25.
Now, most of you are probably like, well, what about all the reports that people get online and talk about? What about all the chats and the conversations that happen in chat rooms and on forums? And what about those people? Our clinical and legal research says this, that a lot of people in those chats are looking for 3 things: belonging, freedom of speech and thought, and people who need validation that they are not psychotic, that they are not sick.
Okay. All right. So let's discuss those things, right? Validation. When you are going through something, when you know that you've been experimented on, when you know that you've been drugged and this and that, it's just like people who've been assaulted, right? People who've been through certain trauma, right? We all look for validation. We all want to know that we're not the only one who have experienced this. It doesn't mean that we never experienced it, but I want you to understand how they use these talking points to discredit us. But we can, again, do a quick rebuttal, right? And just say, okay, people who were addicted to drugs, right? They go to what? They go to therapy. They meet other people who were addicted to drugs. Some of them might feel like, shoot, I'm the only one that's just addicted to drugs. But when they find out there are other people who are just as addicted as they are, it is validation for them that they're not the only one. But validation is part of the healing process, right? Or part of the process of belonging, that understanding that you are not the only one who has been going through these things, right? So they'll always, and I want you to understand why they send these psychiatrists, because these psychiatrists, remember I said 78% of psychiatrists in America are in the pockets of big pharma, okay? Not also that, but imagine the CIA, the government, who have created the field of psychiatry in which it is today, right? And as a tool to offshoot those who are wealthy to create these pharmaceutical companies, particularly when it comes to diagnosing and treating people with so-called mental illness, right? So you have a steady stream of who? Customers. People who are displaying signs of what they call, and also remember too, think about this, right? These pharmaceutical companies, they create the drugs first, right? Before they create the symptoms. And yes, they do create the symptoms because they're the one that attach the symptoms to that particular drug, right? So if you go, that's why I said that Sweden, the psychiatrists in Sweden and those within the psychiatric industry, the psychiatric industry in Sweden, they're taking a different look, a different approach to these things, right?
This is what psychology.
And what else you said? Let's go back.
That happen in chat rooms and on forums. And what about those people? Our clinical and legal research says this, that a lot of people in those chats are looking for 3 things: belonging, freedom of speech, and...
Okay, so let's talk about freedom of speech, right? As TIs, we know that they don't want to speak in about what it is that they are doing, right? We know that, like, particularly for me, like whenever I start speaking like this and do these videos, they'll use the sirens a lot, as they're doing outside right now, in very low volume, right? Okay, now you guys don't hear it, and that's why I have the sound effects there, all right? But there were times when I'll do a video and you can hear it in the video. You could hear it, right? And I noticed that whenever I were to capture those things in videos, what they'll do is that they'll start doing it even more subtle and less frequent, but that only lasts for maybe a day or 2, and then they come back because they have to try to make up a reason or excuse to discredit you, right? Or to discredit me, all right? Because that's what they do. The minute you start to, as a TI, you start to, particularly if you have a YouTube channel, and people start to subscribe to you, they will run a discrediting campaign. They will manipulate people to not subscribe to you. Like, for example, like I said, my subscribers on my TI channel has remained at just a little over 1,000, and I've been doing these videos for years now, right? So I know I have been shadow banned, and also they using manipulative tactics against people who might want to subscribe to my channel, right?
Thoughts,
right, and freedom of thought. Yeah, because our minds are being read without our consent. I say without our consent. Here the police sirens. I didn't give consent. I will never give consent. But they will try to manufacture consent, and part of that is the use of the New York Police Department, in my case, who will engage in sitting outside in their vehicle, constantly doing things like this, right? Daily, nightly, hourly at times. Okay, so imagine living like this, right? Now imagine if you didn't have this sort of mindset that I have, where you say, you know what, I'm going to try to figure this out and figure out what's going on, right? Like I said, they've sent people with try to sell me weapons because they want to make this, oh, he's a lone wolf, or he this and he that, look, such and such. They're willing to allow people to die so they can continue to manipulate people, so they can implement these sort of programs, right? Particularly the microchipping. Or well, we can, you know, remember, when they are ready to implement these things, they are going to, we are all collateral damage in their eyes. Okay?
And people who need validation that they are not psychotic, that they are not sick. This is
okay. Now, I don't need to seek validation, okay? Because I'll tell you, what they've done have psychologically damaged me. I'm not going to deny that. Now, in terms of whether they diagnosed me with paranoia or schizophrenia, am I really schizophrenic? Because I know that schizophrenia have been used against Black people in the past. I know that before the civil rights movement, where you had particularly Black men involved in organizing and stuff like that. And here's the funny thing too, because Black women were also involved in organizing, right? But they never attached the schizophrenic, the violence that they've done. So if you look at the schizophrenic diagnosis prior to 1965, prior to the civil rights movement, right? Violence was not one of the things or symptoms of a person who was schizophrenic. So a lot of times, the majority of people who was diagnosed as schizophrenic was white people and white men, right? No violence. But as soon as the civil rights movement happened, after now, Black men were being diagnosed with schizophrenia more than anybody else, and they included violence in their diagnosis. Okay, go read the book, the protest, the protest psychosis or protest diagnosis, how schizophrenia was used against black people, or the Black Civil Rights Movement, something like that. Okay. So again, I will never say that I have not been psychologically harmed by this. Okay, no TI can say this. All right, but what they'll try to do again, they'll try to say, well, oh well, because you talk to this person, that means you're not psychologically harmed. Yeah, if I talk to somebody, it's because I'm trying to share knowledge. And again, this is what they'll do too, to prevent you from exposing, to prevent you from sharing what you know, right? And then trying to couple that to say, well, oh, if you talk to this person, you tell this person that what you know, then, you know, we're going to take away your disability, right? It's that constant threat. You're always under that constant threat because they're trying to silence you. And particularly when you are microchip and they're reading your thoughts, right? You want to let people know what's going on, particularly if when you feel as a human being, grave injustices being done to you and others.
What psychology and our legal information on these chat rooms are sane, that there's no way to prove that there's anyone sane or based in reality that's in those chat rooms online. Keep in mind that when this topic comes up, we're talking about people who are really sick. That
listen, when I hear Black therapists say this, it shows me their lack of understanding of what it's like to be Black in America. Okay? Do you know at one point, right, white psychiatrists used to say that the black enslaved person who would run away from enslavement, that there was something psychologically wrong with them, and so they created a term, they call it drapetomania, right? Because these white people couldn't understand, well, why are the slaves running away? We're treating them good, right? We're working them to death. They're not getting paid, right? We're raping them. We're brutalizing them. But yet they could not understand why those black enslaved people were running away. Okay? In the 1990s, when Gary Webb came out with his book, Kill the Messenger, that talked about how the CIA, U.S. government, right, were responsible for allowing drugs to come into the black community. They funneled drugs into the black community in their direction, all over North, and getting black people hooked on crack, right? So they can fund their secret wars in South America by going on these drug buses, and the money that they took from them, from those drug buses through the DEA, right? They use those money to fund, right, the buying of guns from Iran to ship it to Nicaragua. Right? This is how the CIA created the drug cartels. So when you see these migrants from South America coming into the United States, it is the result, it is the effect of U.S. government, right, programs, right, to cause stability, that has caused stability in countries in South America, whether due to the drug trade that the United States started, or the political assassination of leaders who were democratically elected by the people. But then here in the United States, what did they say? That we are a democratic country. Now, if other nations was to come and eliminate our presidents, our leaders, it would mean war, right? But the United States, understand this, assassinated leaders in Africa, the Caribbean, in South America. They assassinated the leaders who wanted what was best for their people. An American corporation, along with these dark triads within the U.S. government, right, cause instability. They've trained death squads all across. Look what happened in Iraq right now. In Iraq right now, the U.S. government has been training death squads, murdering young Iraqi males. Okay? You wipe out an entire family, almost an entire family, right? And they know that whoever lives within the family, they might come seeking revenge. And so what do? They hunt them down and kill them. Incredible. And who needs to change?
Get intermixed in this topic, and that is why it's difficult to tease apart what's real and what's not real. Okay, so that's the issue there when it comes to research. The other part of
see, psychiatrists, you cannot do the research by yourself. Okay, you need to go to scientists who are familiar when it comes to radio and microwave frequency, how it affects our minds, right? Are there weapons created to do just that? You know? And you need to take those things into consideration. But like I said, no one has escaped these weapons. Okay? No one.
research around gang stalking is there's a really
it's
strong,
not. You see, they focus on the gang stalking part because they don't want to talk about the technological aspect of it.
conviction for a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people feel really strong about the topic of gang stalking, and they truly believe that they are being stalked. They truly believe that their life is coming to an end.
Okay, and here's another thing before I end this video. Right, we talk about the gang stalkers, but who are the gang stalkers? Right, who are the gang stalkers? And for that, you need to go and read Cults Anonymous by Margaret Singer. And this is a quick video of her. Well, not a quick video, but I'm just going to play just a little part of it because, again, for copyright, you know, don't want to get a copyright strike. But I want you guys to listen to this.
A cult is a group started by an individual who claims that if you just give almost all or all of your decision making over to him or her, they will share with you some old secrets of the past that they've discovered, or they'll share with you new secrets that they've just discovered. But it's more a cultic relationship in which you, the follower, turn over your decision making to this person, and you surrender and obey in return for them sharing with you their supposed secrets. The main difference between organized, institutionalized, and recognized religions in the world and cults is that the recognized religions have the followers venerate God, place their adoration to God and abstract principles, whereas cults have the followers place the veneration and the adoration on the living cult leader. Cults tend to be totalistic. They tend to have a rule that covers everything. They tend to be totalitarian in that the cult leader has all of the power and decision making. Most of the modern day cults have a double set of ethics, in which, as a member, you're to tell the truth to the other people in the group, but because the outside world are regarded as lesser beings, sinners, unenlightened, they can be lied to and tricked. Another quality of cults is that they are elitist, in which they believe that all the members are special persons and above others in the world, so that makes it all right for the double set of ethics.
Okay, and not just double set of ethics, but how they treat those outside the cult. All right, so when she said that, you know, those outside the cult could be lied to and tricked, this is what they do. So what the U.S. government has done is using religious groups, religious organizations, and their members to engage in destructive cult behavior, right? So again, it's tied. Everything is tied in. How the dark tribes within the government uses the religious-minded people, the religious indoctrinated, to engage in these things, right? And they're not being told everything. They're not being told everything. They're not being told about the technology being used. Okay. Meanwhile, this is why I love Darren Brown. Go read his show, go listen, go watch his show. Go watch the Darren Brown, go to the Darren Brown YouTube channel and watch one of the videos that he has. He did a show. It's called The Game Show. Go watch that. It's called The Game. Let me see if I can, let me see what you guys know.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, wish me luck, Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application.
Audience decides what happens to Chris, our unsuspecting member of the public. The audience are wearing masks to preserve their anonymity, and Chris, our target, has no idea that he's being filmed tonight.
Okay, not only film, but they're actually going to ask the public to make choices for this individual, right? By, you know, giving them two sets of choice. One choice is good things will happen to him. The next one will be, then the other choice would be bad things will happen to him. And guess what you think happened? I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. Go and look at the video. All right. Anyhow, that being said, I will speak to you guys on the next Target Individual program, the next Target Individual experience.